Hello everyone. My name is Dan Vendrups and I'm in the Research, Education and Development team in the Graduate Research School at La Trobe University. I'm speaking to you from our city campus here on Collins Street in the heart of Melbourne City. And the view you have behind me is the Melbourne skyline, so I hope that gives you a sense of at least part of the environment that we're in. My role here today is to talk to you a bit about the expectations of supervisors at La Trobe, and that extends to external supervisors, which is why we're having this conversation. I'm going to switch in a minute to a PowerPoint show that explains some of the expectations that we have, and this is just the first in a series of short videos to talk you through the things that you need to know as you're commencing your supervision relationship with La Trobe University. I'll share this with you now. There's three things that I'd like to talk about in this workshop. One is to provide you with some information about the expectations of graduate research supervisors at La Trobe. Secondly, to provide you with some information about how supervision is viewed and understood in the university context. Thirdly, to provide you with some questions as part of a reflective exercise that will help you develop and articulate your approach to supervision and how that might fit with what we've got to discuss here today. So La Trobe University has a strong reputation in graduate research. We've got about 1,400 candidates enrolled at the present time. And graduate research development is a pillar in the university's research strategy. This is being measured in two ways. Firstly, through timely completions, and we consider a timely completion to be around about 3 years, 3 months full-time equivalent for a doctoral candidate, and through an excellent student experience. Now, all supervisors contribute to these two measures in ways that we'll discuss as we go along. Within the university, the Graduate Research School administers the enrolments of graduate researchers, but we don't provide supervision. We're an administrative central unit as opposed to an academic one. We also provide training and support for candidates and for supervisors on different aspects of the graduate research experience. And just this year, we've implemented a graduate researcher experience and wellbeing plan that has 6 guiding principles that apply to all of the work that we're doing for La Trobe University. We seek to enhance supervision through effective work together and professional development, and that's part of what we're doing today. We seek to cultivate a sense of belonging for our candidates. This is something that candidates frequently report as being something that they need. We're fostering the idea of the candidate as a whole person, not just the part of them that's responsible for running experiments in the lab or what it might be, but thinking about the broader context in which they are located. And also fostering employability, helping candidates to identify transferable skills, ways of connecting them with industry, things that they can take forward in their future working lives. We want to make sure that expectations are clear for everyone involved in graduate research training, and we want to make sure that we're working efficiently and also in a way that's transparent and clear ourselves. The governance of graduate research then is something that's actually informed by a suite of policies that apply to all universities in Australia. So many of the actions and policies of the Graduate Research School are actually informed by these. Now, we don't have time to go into these in great detail, but we have links available for you to look at these documents in your own time. But key ones to consider include the Australian Code for the Conduct of Responsible Research, which has some specific requirements about research conduct and research training. Also, the ways in which human and animal ethics matters are adhered to across our sector, and any kinds of biosafety or security matters that may also be of interest to the Australian government and Australian researchers. And there's also a set of guidelines around how supervisors and research candidates interact, described in terms of respectful relationships. We want to make sure that everyone involved in graduate research supervision is being treated with respect. As a supervisor of a La Trobe candidate, these codes and policies also apply to your work with that candidate, even if you don't have any other interactions with Australian research or Australian researchers. Here are just some examples of the sorts of policies and procedures that might apply. These links will be provided to you electronically as we go along. So when it comes to research training, we've got two core objectives. The first is that graduate research is providing the world with new knowledge, that we're producing original research. This is something that will be familiar to everyone. The second is that in addition to the research that we might be producing, we're also producing independent researchers, individuals who are going to be able to go out confidently from their experience at La Trobe and work effectively in research in their future careers. Supervisors have some particular responsibilities in regard to these objectives. So supervisors need to train the candidate in discipline skills and knowledge, and methods and theories that might be appropriate to their topic. These are not things that are centrally provided for by the university, and this is where your discipline knowledge really comes in. Supervisors also need to mentor and support candidates. Now, we all, as supervisors, need to develop our own senses of what's appropriate and necessary and preferable and desirable when it comes to these relationships. But what we can't do is leave students completely out on a limb without any kind of advice or support about their place in the research environment. Supervisors need to play a part in ensuring that the research being conducted is valid and accurate. And there are ways of making sure that we speak up if we see things that we don't think are going right, and making use of all of the vehicles for discussion that are available. And supervisors also collectively need to ensure that appropriate attributions are being made, that work is being cited appropriately, that the right references are in the right places, that everyone contributing to the research endeavour is being acknowledged for the work that they're doing. So we have a collective responsibility towards these things. Within this, there are some particular things that the principal supervisor role takes care of. The principal supervisor role, first and foremost, needs to be a La Trobe academic staff member. This is because they're taking primary administrative responsibility for the project, as well as intellectual responsibility for its conduct. They need to be internal to the university so that they understand all of the university's processes and procedures. In circumstances where we have more than one discipline represented in the supervision team, the candidate's discipline follows that of the principal supervisor. But this principal supervisor doesn't work alone. Co-supervisors are also integral to the supervision process. No La Trobe student is allowed to have just one supervisor. They need to always have at least two. Co-supervisors can be internal to the university or external, as is the case for us today. And in practice, co-supervisors might be providing generalist support in the same way as the principal supervisor might be, or they may be specialists providing a particular expertise in a particular area, like a particular methodology, for example. More than one co-supervisor may be appointed to a supervision team. There may be two, possibly even three, usually not more than that. But between them all, they're sharing the supervision load, and all of the supervisors should at some point have a discussion about how they are going to share that work. Different people in the supervision context, therefore, have different sorts of roles. As we said, the university considers supervision to be in equal parts teaching and research. It's not one or the other. It cuts across both of these things. And supervisors have a responsibility to not only support the research that their candidates are conducting, but also to provide instruction to teach in how the conduct of research should happen. Candidates are students of the university, but they're also often co-workers in the work that we do, and in some cases, colleagues. This is just something to consider, because the position of student and the position of supervisor can bring with them certain kinds of presumptions about power relationships and that sort of thing. A candidate for a doctorate could be in more than one position, and this is complex. Candidates also have access to all the Trove staff systems, so the intranet, all of the sorts of forms that we might use, and they have a staff-like email address to help, I guess, level the perceptions of what sort of work a student might be producing in their interactions with outsiders as well. So it makes them look more professional. Now, with all of these ideas in mind, and bearing in mind that this is just the first part of a multi-part orientation, I'd like to encourage you maybe to get into small groups, maybe around the table that you've got, and discuss the following questions. First of all, how do you view supervision? Teaching, research, mentoring, something else? To what extent do your views resemble the sorts of things we've just discussed? Secondly, how do you view doctoral candidates? As students, mentees, colleagues? And what are these views based on? Are they part of your discipline expectations? Are they perhaps informed by your prior experience or any principles that you might bring to your work? Finally, you may have views or experiences that differ to what we've just described as the university's position. If this is the case, and it's perfectly reasonable because many of the university's positions are directly informed by Australian government matters or policies and priorities, which you may not have interacted with before. But if that's the case, how might this affect your approach to supervision at La Trobe? What sorts of things might you need to consider in reconciling what those differences might be? I'm going to stop sharing the screen with you now, just so I can come back and encourage you to think about those things before we move on into the second part of this orientation process.